Diaz gets the mount. My goodness. Now he's got the back.
Now. That's it. He's got the shot.
Nate Diaz.
He's down.
He has done it. It is all over.
Mixed martial arts is the only sport in the world where you can poke your opponent in the eye, and that will mean that the fight that you were just having and the fight that you just ruined is now going to be a bigger fight, a more interesting fight, and a fight that's definitely going to make you a much richer man than before. This is On the Mic. This is the third episode of our show, and we're just off the heels of UFC Mexico and UFC Copenhagen, and we are right around the corner with UFC 243. That's going to be in the Marvel Stadium.
Dude, 56,000 people. Like, that is such an insane number, considering that no UFC event, I don't think, has ever been this close to just an initial gate that was this size.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is going to break all-time records. This might just be the biggest MMA sporting event in history.
This is definitely going to break the attendance and the gate, and I don't think it'll like break the pay-per-view record. But it's definitely, in terms of attendance, going to be the biggest show that the UFC is ever going to put on. These guys, Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, two of the best middleweights right now. It only makes sense for them to be in that spot to fight for the title, but apart from just the aspect of, champion and then interim champion.
Geography of it, man.
Yeah, that's insane if you think about it.
It's like the Kiwis versus the Aussies, and then you're having the card in Australia, and both of them have belts around their waist. It's a match made in heaven.
It's literally a match made in heaven, and it's literally, I think, the equivalent of Pakistan India. Although I don't know how deep that rivalry runs. I'm sure they're not fighting over a Kashmir per se. Not to get too political or at all, to be honest.
Politics are off the mic.
Yeah, not on the mic today is politics. But yeah, not to get political at all, but those guys really don't like each other. The Kiwis and Australians. And these two guys seem to also not like each other. Robert Whittaker is always very reserved and respectful with his opponents, but I notice a different level of intensity coming from the Reaper this time around. And I don't think it's from a place of anger or hatred. I don't think he can afford those emotions. Just such a nice guy. It comes from a place of feeling disrespected. And that's Israel Adesanya's game. That's why he sometimes does get in other people's head, like we saw against Derek Brunson. But that's also what you might not want to do against somebody who's a walking, talking Terminator in Robert Whittaker. So that's really exciting. And I don't understand why Israel feels the need to market himself the way he does. This guy is very cringy. I'm just going to put it out there right now. Who is the cringiest fighter? First question of the day. Who is the most cringiest fighter in the UFC right now?
The style bender.
Well, you see, there's a few of them up there, right? So there's Henry Cejudo,
Colby Covington.
But for me,
Kamaru, even, I'd say. Kind of.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. But see, these guys still, whatever role or whatever persona they're playing, they know it's just that. It's a role or a persona, right? With the style bender, this guy's an amazing athlete. He's such an amazing fighter, an amazing kickboxer. And don't be surprised, by the way, if he beats Robert Whittaker.
Yeah. Like, there's no reason to rule that guy out at all.
From a fight perspective.
Yeah.
But everything else is just so cringy about him. He posts memes during press conferences apparently, and then last press conference he talked about how he would even disrespect his own flag to get a title, and he talked about how he once said that Robert Whittaker edged a close split decision against Yoel Romero, which may be true, but why are you saying that? It's Yoel Romero.
And I think that what Whittaker said was really classy to that. Like, right at the end of the press conference, they asked about predictions, and Whittaker said that I'm going to take him for 5 rounds, and it's going to be an even fight, and I'm going to win by split decision.
Yeah, close split decision. And then in response to that, he says, Israel Adesanya says, I might just lay and pray on him because that's what my boy GSP does. Don't bring GSP
Your boy
into this.
GSP?
Yeah, no.
Your boy GSP.
Your boy GSP. And don't bring GSP into this to keep GSP's name out of your mouth. But yeah, there's a lot of news about GSP as well during the week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about specifically?
The Khabib's comment, that Instagram thing that was happening.
I love that so much, dude. GSP posted a picture of himself eating sushi, and the caption reads, and I'll be specific: "Sushi tastes even better after a 75-hour water fast." And then it's just GSP with chopsticks, being very GSP. And the top comment from Khabib Nurmagomedov to that picture was 155 ? And what do you think about that?
GSP's not coming down.
Really? Then why is he doing
Camp
this?
spoke out as well. GSP's doing nothing. I think Khabib's just playing around, man. He just got off his match with the burger, and now he's on to his next opponent. I don't know, because the lightweight division, it only makes sense for Tony Ferguson to get booked against Khabib. I think it is a travesty to put anyone else up against Khabib right now, because Tony Ferguson's on the sideline.
This is where, remember we had a discussion off the mic about why Khabib should have called out Tony Ferguson right after the fight.
Yeah, I remember.
So the argument was based around this central principle, right? I believe that Khabib had every reason to, and a certain level of responsibility to, call out Tony Ferguson as soon as his fight with Dustin Poirier was over, and you felt as if he had no responsibility or no need to do so.
Yeah.
And this is why I said he should have done it, because it now is so apparent to me as to why he didn't do it, because he probably doesn't want to fight Tony Ferguson as much as he wants to fight George St. Pierre.
So I don't think it's about not wanting to fight other people. I think Khabib at this point is just looking at his last few fights. I don't think Khabib is going to fight more than 3 times.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Who are those 3 fights?
I don't know. Ideally, if I got to pick...
Of course you don't know, but guess for me.
If I got to pick, I think it would be Tony, irrespective of the result, although I think Khabib would win. The next matchup, give him GSP, man. He's already dwarfed the division.
Sure.
And if you don't want to give him GSP, you could give him Woodley. You could have Khabib. I don't know, man. Because the way the division's shaped up right now, I can only see one contender. That's the problem. That's why I can't give you 3 names. Because in that division, there aren't 3 names to face Khabib right now.
I'll give you 3 names.
What are those 3
and
names?
I'll tell you Tyron Woodley is on one of them, because Tyron Woodley doesn't make sense, not for Tyron Woodley, but for Khabib. Khabib wouldn't fight Tyron Woodley ever. Primarily because Tyron Woodley is so much heavier than him, so much bigger than him, and he possesses a skill set that doesn't give Khabib any kind of an advantage.
But GSP...
let me explain why.
Yeah.
GSP definitely is a great striker. He has a cushion background and everything. GSP is a wrestler, sure, but Khabib would much rather get into a fight with a wrestler as opposed to a guy like Tyron Woodley, who has amazing takedown defenses like we saw against Damian Maia, and has dynamite in his hands. So I don't see any reason why he would fight Tyron Woodley, even though Tyron Woodley also put out Khabib's name recently and said, I want to fight him. Here's how I see Khabib's trajectory ideally going, right? And you might hate me for this right about at the end. You know where this is going. Tony Ferguson, he beats Tony Ferguson. If he beats Tony Ferguson, give him GSP, let him cement his legacy as the greatest wrestler, greatest wrestling-based striker ever. And then after that, I'm just saying his retirement fight should be... Hey, you know what? As for all of you Khabib fans out there, let him have an easy retirement fight, right? give him Conor McGregor. Let's see what happens in the rematch. Because I'm saying this right now. Conor McGregor beats Khabib in the rematch.
You said that the first time too.
I'll say it again. And again and again and again. Conor McGregor will beat Khabib in the rematch. You know what? I am putting out my integrity as an MMA journalist or whatever the hell I am, because I do a podcast with my friend. I'm putting my integrity as a human being, as an honest man, just by saying that Conor McGregor wins the rematch. In my heart of hearts, I know he doesn't win the rematch. There is no conceivable way that guy can beat somebody who's been wrestling his entire life at the highest level. But I would not doubt Conor McGregor. That's what you learned as a Conor McGregor fan, that you do not doubt him. Especially in the rematches.
I agree.
So I think he'll beat him. But do I actually? No. But I'm going to still make that claim. Hold me to it. Debate me against it. I will, sure, I'll prove it. But I don't think you want to do that. So these are the 3 fights that I think make the most sense. Yeah. Right? He needs to go in that trajectory, and after that, Khabib will retire. He's said himself he doesn't want to go on for too long in the sport. He's been talking about potentially retiring way before. He was once offered the Aldo fight. Imagine that fight, by the way, when Aldo was still a little, in there.
Before Max Holloway too.
Yeah, before Conor and then Max Holloway took Aldo's soul. Yeah. Aldo was in there to was in the conversation to fight Khabib. And Khabib said, nah, this is not one of the fights I want to do. So Khabib's really picking fights now that he's a champion, and I think that's fine. He deserves to do that. But yeah, the GSP fight, I think the only hurdle in this reasonably is the weight. Because GSP will not go down to 155, I think.
Yeah.
Khabib does not want to go up to 170, I think. And there has been precedents in the past where, Khabib's been offered to go up a weight class, or at least they've had that discussion and he said, no, I don't want anything to do with it. Vice versa for GSP when it comes to 155. That's why he didn't fight Khabib in the first place, or else that's a match made in heaven.
I think what stops this fight from happening is like a fighter philosophy on either side. So I think Khabib's the kind of fighter that just wants to stay in one weight class and show that he is the best fighter ever at lightweight, period. But with GSP, I think it's different. GSP, especially in recent times, after he took his retirement, before he came back for Bisping, GSP turned into a different person. GSP became really health conscious because he had a lot of issues. So I think GSP would prioritize his well-being and his health, and I do not think it's feasible for him to be making that cut. They tried a test cut, that worked out, but...
Yeah, but then why are you doing test cuts and
because
74?
GSP is a superhero,
He's
man.
retired. Like, this isn't what normal people do in retirement. So I'm just saying there has to be there's no smoke without fire.
Nothing
right?
is normal about GSP.
Yeah, that's true. But again, Faraz Sahabi also said recently that Khabib Nurmagomedov versus GSP won't take place at lightweight.
Yeah.
The operative term being at lightweight, right? So, that tells you everything about GSP, and this further proves my theory that they are having this conversation about Khabib and GSP fighting, and that's why I think Khabib very cheekily said 155 pounds ? And that makes sense because I think he's trying to get GSP to come down. His weight doesn't want to go up, but you know what? This is so exciting to talk about. Two of the best wrestlers that have ever graced the octagon might fight. But this really does run over a certain somebody who's the kind of guy to not get run over, and that's Tony Ferguson. Yeah. What did we just say? Screw Tony. Just move on.
Tony Ferguson's the kind of person that would run you over with a bicycle if he could. Tony Ferguson would not let that fight.
Dude, my favorite Tony Ferguson is the type of guy joke was Tony Ferguson's the type of guy to sit next to you in an empty bus.
Or the urinal joke, where there are like a million urinals, but it'll come right next to you.
Dude, Tony Ferguson really is the type of guy to come stand next to you in a urinal. Or something to that. Omer, do you know who Tony Ferguson is? Okay, Tony Ferguson is the type of guy. So there's this entire internet kind of like the internet likes to joke with Tony Ferguson, saying that he's the type of guy to blank, and then it's just like the weirdest shit. And you know what? It all makes sense. This guy trains, and he literally kicks steel pipes to train his leg. So there was a joke Tony Ferguson's the type of guy to get knocked out to condition his chin. This guy's nuts, dude. The kind of stuff he does in the gym, the kind of stuff he does when he's training, all of that, he really is that type of guy. But regardless of that, does he just get run over? Is that it? Tony Ferguson doesn't get the title shot? Thank you so much. Please come again.
So I think there are two questions here. First, is Khabib at the level where he gets to move up and then, just challenge for another title, or is he at the point where he gets to face one of the greatest of all time? I think after Conor McGregor moved up to lightweight and became double champ, the standard for giving someone the GOAT fight is really low. I think Khabib's crossed that. I think Khabib deserves the GOAT fight, but I think the second question we need to answer is there anyone in the division that deserves that title match? And that is Tony Ferguson.
Right. But that's the thing. Do we give GSP Khabib before Tony Ferguson?
No.
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
But that's most likely going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
Please. Sir, there's a precedent. Every single time there's a deserving contender, Dana White does not give a single shit. He will run you over with his money truck going backwards if he has to, but he will give the fans the biggest fights as opposed to the fights that make the most sense. As a hardcore MMA fan, I hate that. But also as an MMA fan, I realized that was essential at a certain point. Now we're at a point where fans are clamoring for the best fights, not the biggest fights. That's why we got GSP getting Michael Bisping over whoever, like, I don't know, Yoel Romero. Yeah. Romero was undisputed the guy who should have faced Michael Bisping at a point, but they're like, here you go. Here's George St. Pierre versus Michael Bisping at 185 pounds because it's the biggest fight to make. That's his excuse for everything. This is the biggest fight to make. And Tony Ferguson is going to get steamrolled. And guess what? Nobody's going to say jack shit about it. Most likely, Tony Ferguson isn't going to say jack shit about it either because Tony Ferguson's going to be paid so much in his next fight, he's going to stay mum about it. That's exactly what happened
with
with
UFC Mafia now.
No, that's what happens. That's what they did with UL. Like that's what Ariel Helwani asked at the press conference where Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre were sitting. He said, "What are you going to do with Yoel Romero?" He said, "We'll take care of Yoel Romero," which basically means this. And it sucks. But you know what? We still get the biggest fights. Dana White's still the world's best promoter of all time. I still love him. But you know what? Tony Ferguson's going to get steamrolled.
So I guess that answers the question. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. maybe Tony Khabib just was never going to happen.
Yeah, 4 times. I mean, yeah, at this point, we can't really blame Dana for not booking that fight. He's tried 4 times. But at this point, it only makes even more and more sense. And I think the fact that it didn't happen 4 times makes the fight even bigger. And speaking of fights getting bigger because of unfortunate circumstances, Jeremy Stephens Yair Rodriguez poked Jeremy Stephen in the eye.
And now they have a rematch.
Which is going to be bigger than the first match. What the hell? And you know what? I'm fine with that. But yeah, this is what happened. 14 seconds, UFC Mexico main event is over because of an accidental eye poke. And then, you know what? All of that shit and that happens as a part of the sport. But you know what I really hate? How Yair Rodriguez was
reacted to that?
Yeah.
Dude, you poke someone in the eye. And then you get mad at them and say, how dare you stop the fight because I poked you in the eye. What are you on, man?
He's screaming at Bisping. Dude, Bisping's like thrice your size. He's going to like move a hand across you and the gust of wind's going to knock you out. This is, what the hell? Like I used to love Yair Rodriguez, especially after his last. Like,
oh, dude, that weird...
Korean zombie knockout. Like, what was that? Like,
there was the last second?
Yeah.
That was the last second.
Yeah, and he was losing that fight.
That was 4 minutes and 59 seconds into the 5th round. Oh, wow. And now this.
Umar Fasi, imagine this, right? You're fighting a guy. It's 5 rounds, okay? You're losing the fight. And then right at the end of the fight, like you're losing on decision, it goes to the judges, you definitely lose, right? The last second of the fight, you knock somebody out, you win. But you don't just knock them out. You don't knock them out like, or, you know, like a kick or a punch. The guy's coming in to like hit you because they're both trying to end strong because that can get you a bigger pay, you know, bonuses or whatever. This guy decides to go down and then bring his elbow up from behind his back.
Under his chin.
And then like he hit the guy like this.
And he's just flat out cold.
Have fun editing this,
gone.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he did this shit, knocked the guy out last second of the fight.
Of a 25-minute fight. That was 24 minutes and 59 seconds in.
Yeah.
They were going to a decision and that's it.
And this guy, yeah. So that was crazy.
Now he's getting mad at people because they can't recover from his eye pokes.
Yeah, he poked a guy in the eye. No, you're not allowed. Yeah, the fight got canceled in 13 seconds. Can you imagine the entire city of Mexico? No, country of Mexico. City of Mexico City, Mexico City, New Mexico? New Mexico City, Mexico. Albuquerque! I don't know. Like, this is what a meltdown looks like. I am Britney Spears. But listen. Yeah, so Mexico, the country of Mexico, in the capital of... Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's what I was confusing you. Listen, I don't know where the fight is.
You have a laptop in front of you. None of this had to happen if you would just let me talk and just Google search something and then it would be fine.
Don't tell them our secrets, man. Like how I don't let you. Okay. You want to explain this? Go ahead. Yeah, no, good luck.
Okay. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about one thing, which was the reaction of the Mexicans to this. And like, I'm going to be really careful not to insinuate anything Trump related, but the Mexicans were just, what were they doing? Because that's not how you, like, that's not the right decorum to follow at
Build
any
the wall. Build the wall.
You did it. But no, did you, they were just throwing their soda cans and just everything into the octagon. They had surprisingly amazing aim and like, wow.
Dude, it was crazy. Like, you know, surprisingly because there was a whole bunch of people in the cage and they were only hitting the guy they wanted to hit. Yeah.
None of them hit the dude that did the eye poke. He was the local.
Yeah, he was the local. He was the Mexican. He was the local. But yeah, Yeah, we are getting canceled now. This is the last episode of the way. See, I carried joke forward from the last one. Anyway,
How far can you carry it?
but, so this guy is Mexican, right? Yair Rodriguez. And he was fighting in Mexico, and everybody came out to watch him. And then 13 seconds into the fight, everybody's hyped because this guy's probably, is he the best fighter from Mexico right now?
Right now, maybe.
Yeah. So he's like probably the hottest Mexican prospect or like fighter that they have in the roster. And this guy comes out and accidentally pokes out the guy in the eye like 14 seconds in. And then the fight gets canceled because the guy's now seeing double. Right? Like he can't see properly. So obviously you have to call the fight off. Doctor came in, looked at it, he was like, dude, I can't see. And this guy's tough as nails, the guy who got poked. So he's like, dude, if he's saying he can't see, then he can't see. And then the crowd starts booing. Obviously, I don't blame the crowd for booing, but I do blame them for throwing shit in the cage, which is what they start doing. And yeah, and then that was just it. That was over. And then the guy who poked the other guy in the eyes, Yair Rodriguez poked Jeremy Stevens in the eye. Yair got mad at Jeremy for not fighting. You poked him in the eye. You know what I'm saying? So that was crazy. And if any of you watching think mixed martial arts is just dudes hitting or hugging each other without any clothes on, you're wrong. It's that plus the crowd throwing shit in the cage, which is just something to watch. But what else happened? UFC Copenhagen. We saw some okay fights, I think, like some really good ones, some, whatever ones. What was the biggest takeaway for you from UFC Copenhagen?
I mean, honestly, while I was watching that card, all I could think about was you 243. For some reason, it just kind of got to that for me because I'm watching Jack Hermansson fight and it's a great fight. But I mean, it just, you said this, you said that this does mean a lot for the title picture.
Yeah.
But does it really mean that much?
Well, yeah, because if you look at the rankings after UFC Copenhagen, Jared Cannonier, the guy who now has wins over David Branch, Anderson Silva, and now Jack Hermansson, is ranked number 5th. So, and this is literally, he's leapfrogged a lot of important people in the division. I think rightfully so. He's leapfrogged Ronaldo Souza, Jacare Souza, Chris Weidman, who's moving up anyway, and then Derek Brunson. And then above Jared Cannonier now, which I think obviously deserves anybody who's above him in the rankings, are the following. Number 4, Kelvin Gastelum. Number 3, Yoel Romero. Number 2, Paulo Costa. And number 1, Israel Adesanya. So what I'm trying to say to you here right now is Paulo Costa is probably getting the winner of Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, because, he's Dana White's pet project. So Jared Cannonier, the only fight that makes sense in my head, and Kelvin Gastelum was booked against Darren Till, is Yoel Romero. And Yoel Romero versus Jared Cannonier is a very good fight if you think of it from any perspective, right? This is the big fight that everybody needs. Yoel Romero is a big fight in middleweight. Everybody needs to sort of be taken seriously, right? At least be in the conversation for top 3, top 4. And Jared Cannonier is a guy which just makes so much sense for me if he fights Yoel Romero, because he's a guy who's picked up steam, and Yoel Romero is like the perpetual gatekeeper right now. Yeah. So I think that makes sense. And I think it does shake up the middleweight division completely. Another guy who I was really impressed with was Ion Cutelaba. He beat Khalil Rountree Jr. And he didn't just beat him; he literally mugged him. He took his wallet. Like literally, this is the only knockout.
Oh my god, that was brutal.
It's the only finish I've seen that actually reminded me of somebody mugging someone, because he knocked him down, put him against the cage, and absolutely just started throwing bombs at him. If he tried to get up, he would put him back down, trip him back down, beat him up some more. And
take his wallet and leave.
Give me your money. It was amazing. But yeah, this is shaping up to be quite a week for MMA. At least if you keep the last 2 weeks in hindsight. And this card itself, UFC 243. So tell me right now, I'll put you on the spot. This Saturday or Sunday morning for us, we're gonna watch 2 of the best middleweights from that side of the world, from down under. Go at it. Who takes the win and why?
I think Whittaker is going to win, and I think it's going to be a decision because, when you really delve into, how Israel Adesanya is, that he gets really cringy and then people think that he's not an amazing fighter. I still think that he is arguably the best fighter right now at middleweight other than Robert Whittaker. I do not see a better matchup right now. I would even put him ahead of Yoel Romero right now simply because of his striking prowess. And that's just something that Robert Whittaker hasn't really, because he's had to deal with knockout power, but has he been able to deal with someone like Israel Adesanya? Like we saw in the Gastelum fight as well, that he's just so good with that reach. He's so good with those body shots. And Whittaker's got a lot of soft spots, but I still feel like the resilience and the heart that Robert Whittaker has. And plus, he's saying that he's never been this healthy ever, which is saying something for Robert Whittaker, because he fought one of his fights he had a hernia, and he also had something wrong with his rectum, and he has all of these problems, but he steps into the octagon and he still puts on a show.
He broke something very early on, I think the left hand or something against Yoel Romero.
Yeah, and then the knee in the fight before that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this dude's a warrior. I think that even if he gets caught, even if there's too much of a problem, there would still be some room for Adesanya to catch him. I still feel like that Whittaker will be able to do damage, but I don't see either person finishing the other.
Yeah.
I just don't see either person getting
so you're
that
saying this goes a
careless.
decision?
I see this going a decision.
I don't know how this fight's going to play out. Very honestly speaking, we can't possibly know how these fights play out. But I will say that it makes a lot of sense for this fight to happen in terms of stylistically. Like, you know, if these guys were like contenders, this would be a fight that I'd be really excited for anyway, regardless of, you know, the fact that Robert Whittaker is the most dominant middleweight champion since Anderson Silva, regardless of the fact that Israel Adesanya has had the, you know, best meteoric rise. You can parallel that to Conor McGregor even in a lot of ways. I mean, apart from the fact that, you know, Israel Adesanya does not have the same charisma, same pull, same drawing power, same likability, or anything for that matter that Conor McGregor has.
Conor McGregor.
Yeah, but no, in terms of his in terms of his rise with respect to the matches that he's won, or at least how he's gone about the division, he's beat a wrestler in Derek Brunson. He beat a very game Gastelum for the interim championship. He's now the interim champ. Robert Whittaker plays the role of Jose Aldo perfectly, so it makes a lot of sense that their careers go in parallel. But yeah, ultimately, what I'm saying is this fight makes sense most for me, not because of the Kiwi aspect or the, Aussie aspect, or in terms of the middleweight division or anything to that effect. It makes sense to me primarily because of the stylistic, the stylistic, what's the word? I can't.
Matchup?
No, I was thinking of a cooler word, but I can't. I was chutzpah for some reason. Modus operandi. Dude, one time I was like, let's use some Latin.
And why don't you use it again?
Because I don't know any other Latin. But no, from a stylistic standpoint, that was the word.
Matchup.
Standpoint.
So you went from class 2 to 3 in a matter of seconds.
I don't know what school you went to, but I didn't study standpoint in class 3. Anyway, but yeah, stylistically, this fight makes most sense because this guy, Israel Adesanya, is an accomplished kickboxer, with just such an amazing kickboxing career. And Robert Whittaker is such a good, like a complete mixed martial artist, because we've seen him fight somebody who can pose a lot of threats when it comes to wrestling with like Yoel Romero. Well, Yoel Romero is like, in my opinion, the most dangerous fighter that's ever existed in the UFC. But he's dangerous because he's very tanky. Like he can take you down with a takedown, keep you down. He can knock you out any second he wants. He's super athletic. He's like the perfect fighter. But because of that, if you can outsmart or outmaneuver him, you can beat him. But if you try to engage in any of his games, you will lose.
Yeah.
And that Robert Whittaker's beat that guy twice. So, it makes sense from a stylistic standpoint. I'm very excited to see who's going to win the striking exchanges. But that's what I'm most excited for. It was an awkward foot touch under the table. Viewers, we apologize, but his foot accidentally
doing it.
touched by it. I had to pull back. Anyways. But yeah, I also see Robert Whittaker winning this fight. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Primarily because he's been able to not just execute, all of the things that he's executed because of how good he is in the octagon, but because of his game plans.
Okay.
Because if just how good he is in terms of implementing a game plan and sticking to it. So my prediction is Robert Whittaker, but I see him finishing Israel Adesanya. The reason he couldn't finish Yoel Romero my opinion, was multifold. Well, the injuries obviously were there during the fight, but also it's because Yoel Romero is the kind of fighter who knows how not to get finished. I'm not saying Israel Adesanya has a high rate of getting finished. He's undefeated, right? But at the same time, he came close to getting finished. If you saw the Gaslam fight, so that's my pick. Dan Hooker, Al Iaquinta. That is also on the card. How do you feel about that one?
I'm really excited for that fight because Dan Hooker's just been on this upward rise. Like I think he's won something like his last 5 fights out of 6, something like that.
Yeah.
But like Iaquinta, I think is the perfect matchup for him at this point. Because Iaquinta is kind of turning into the, hi, I'm a real estate agent, but at the same time I can fight, so let me be the gatekeeper for this division. Because I don't see Iaquinta getting a title match at any point.
I'm the real estate agent. But I can also fight. No, go on. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but not to, like, of course, take away anything from Iaquinta.
He's a great real estate agent. Yeah, no, go on.
But I think it's a great matchup for both people in terms of where they are in their career as well. So I'm really excited for that fight. What else do we have on that card?
Well, I'll get to that in a second. But Dan Hooker, just has beaten Ross Pearson, Mark DeCasey, Jim Miller, Gilbert Burns, lost Jensen Barboza, just knocked out James Wick.
Yeah.
So he's doing pretty well. Al Iaquinta, of course.
That is 5 out of his last 6.
Yeah, damn. How do you remember these things, dude? Like, it's insane. Remember that? What was that thing?
The 38-second knockout thing?
That was 36. You were off by 2 seconds. But damn, what the hell? What was I supposed to look up? Yeah, UFC 243. UFC 243. Apart from that, we have the return of Tai Tuivasa against Sergey Spivak. Tai Tuivasa, of course, just came off a loss to Junior Dos Santos, if I remember correctly. Diego Lima versus Luke Jumia. And Holly Holm or Raquel Pennington got cancelled.
Do you know about Diego Lima?
No, that's the guy in Bellator, no? No, that's
no.
That's
so I looked up Diego Lima because I didn't know a lot about him, and what I realized was that he lost to Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews, and then after that he's won his last 8 fights out of 9.
Oh.
And now Jake Matthews is lower than him on the card. And that was just something really interesting for me to see that, this just keeps happening all around you. All of these weird McGregor, Holloway kind of stories get the spotlight, but it's always happening in these divisions where these people, they're overtaking each other and they're just constantly trying to one-up each other. Like, I think that one defeat did a lot for Diego Lima in terms of propelling him to this point.
Yeah, but man, this is going to be an exciting card. We're definitely going to be watching this.
Yeah, but Holly Holm.
No, Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington got cancelled apparently. I thought it was still on, but yeah, it got cancelled. Oh man, I was really looking forward to that one.
Did someone pull out? Was there an injury?
I have no idea. I thought it was on, like I said. Oh well, that sucks. But hey, the rest of the card's still amazing. We're still going to watch. I think this is going to be one of those cards that you watch primarily for the main co-main, like the Abu Dhabi card, but nonetheless, it's going to be such an exciting card. But man, we have so much stuff coming up apart from that as well. This Sunday, hopefully, if things go according to plan, we have Jamil Rizvi on the show. Jamil Rizvi, of course, one of the most recognizable faces in mixed martial arts here in Lahore, in the Pakistan scene. Of course, he's fought all over the world. We're going to hear about that. Well, not all over the world, but he's fought in other places in the world apart from Pakistan. And we're going to hear about his story, about everything related to what he's done with MMA himself and generally so on and so forth. I'm excited to have him. We have a lot of work to do moving forward. We have to go to Instaprint. We have to get this wall filled up and a lot of other stuff. This podcasting stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just tell you now, is harder than I ever thought it would be. And I thought it was going to be pretty hard. Especially when you go to uni.
I think the way that we envisioned it was kind of wrong. That like, like once a week we're going to have this fixed day. We're going to get together. We're going to record this episode and then we're going to have it processed and upload. No, it just doesn't happen. Like, it takes up a lot more time than you would initially think.
Yeah.
Like, you would think that you just walk into a studio and everything's just set up because, it's a studio.
It's my basement.
Yeah, exactly. It's your basement. We've got to walk in here. We've got to set up all the cameras. We've got to set up the lights. We've got to make coffee.
And this is the first time, by the way, that me, you, and Umar have met. Umar's here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. He moved his hand. You realize the camera's not pointed at him. But yeah, you want to? No, it's fine.
I'm not allowed to.
Sit down, you. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's the first time me, Omer, and Badr are all in the studio. But yeah, it's great. But hey, everybody who's been watching, thank you so much for watching. Like I always say, if you're watching and you don't watch MMA, watch MMA. But if you're watching and you do watch MMA, then that makes a lot of sense for you to watch the show. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for watching. We're gonna keep doing this regardless of how hard this stuff is. I'm really tired. But yeah, it's an exciting time to be an MMA fan. So,
Oh God.
does anything happen?
Not those
No,
words.
not that. Again. This is the best time.
No, but
to be an MMA fan.
I think the next most important time to be an MMA fan would be as soon as 243 ends.
Yeah, because
I
then
think-
we have
Then we have
UFC 244 coming up after.
November 2nd.
Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, that card is going to be so exciting. And they just added Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie to the card. What else do you want from me? Just take my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, or don't, because we can't. Can we buy pay-per-views in Pakistan?
Yeah.
Of course we can. Of course we buy pay-per-views in Pakistan. Every single pay-per-view that we watch is bought to the UFC, whatever. But yeah, can we buy? I don't think we can buy pay-per-views in Pakistan. Can we? Probably
Off
can.
the mic.
We'll talk about this later. But yeah, that card's gonna be amazing. Is there anything closing remarks? Anything you want to say?
Well, nothing. I'm just really hyped for 243.
Yeah, and you have to go to the gym right now. I just realized because Ismail was supposed to shoot right after this, but he's not coming.
Oh.
Yeah, he messaged over. That's what he was showing me. And,
Okay, white noise. I speak in sentences to continue what we're saying.
but yeah,
Are they cutting me already?
he's just like, this guy sucks. please get to now. But yeah, Ismail's not shooting, but you have to go. So I guess we should probably close. Why don't you do the outro this time, dude? I've already made a fool of myself enough times.
Subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Instagram.
Subscribe, YouTube, follow, Instagram, post, Facebook.
You're a failure.
Nazi
But-
Germany. Wait, no. Why is that the first thing that came to my mind? Sorry. Is that word
Did
association?
you just say Nazi Germany?
No. Edit that out. No, Mer, I won't do the hand sign on the podcast. Oh my goodness. Okay.
We're really tired.
Subscribe, YouTube, follow, Instagram. No, thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Can I slow clap now?
Oh, we should end every episode with a slow clap. No, that's a really bad idea. I should really
Just imagine the waveform. Imagine what he has to go through.
But yeah, please subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Like us on Facebook.
I will do the same thing that Badr did.
No, but I'm using like connective words like follow.
I'm using words.
Follow us on follow Instagram. That wasn't. Anyway, yeah. Was that it? Are we just being cut off now? You just. My phone turned off? Yeah. How? Well, I guess we'll have to cut it out very randomly.
Yeah.
But wait, your camera's slow. You do it.
But follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and why don't we have a SoundCloud page?
Oh, all right. That's it from us. That's on the mic. This is the weekday edition, so we're going to be better with these because we're really tired. But why are you still watching this? Like, is what I'll say. Because at this point, the podcast is over, and we are out. Yo, that's a good, outro. And this is where I think you start playing the lo-fi music right now.
He's not going to play it now. We all know he's not gonna-